you bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50-plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go!
EAGLES, Eagles.
And a good morning, football fans. You got your boys, Mac and Mac, here on Birds 365 for the next 2 hours on a football Friday. Every Friday. If you notice, every Friday is a football Friday on this show. And it is with the football fans, not only here in Philadelphia, but around the country. So, we're going to put a bow on a week of football talk, most of it from the owners' meetings in Orlando. But Eagles specific, Johnny Mac, we're getting that much closer to April 1st, which, by the way, you get the dog out this morning?
I did. It wasn't too bad, but still too chilly.
It was chilly. Yeah. We're 3 days from April. What the hell? Why am I wearing a winter coat out at 6:45 in the morning? It's ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. All right, get my complaining out of the way, right and early. But we are that much closer, 3 days to April 1st. And April 1st has a significance because the Philadelphia Eagles pushed a $1 million bonus to Hassan Reddick back, with Hassan Reddick's agreement, by the way. They couldn't have just dictated, we're going to push this back by 2 weeks. No, Hassan had to sign off on it to give them a chance to continue to try and see if there is a trade to be made for Hassan Reddick out there. Now, you're in NFL circles more than I am, so you hear the whispers and the rumors more than I do. I've heard nothing. I've seen a couple of national report teams that may have interest in Hassan Reddick. I have not heard one significant. Eagles and Team X have talked, and the parameters of what they're going back and forth on right now are why. I got none of that. So maybe you've got better sources than I do. Maybe you're more tied in than I am. Am I missing something? Or has this been the slowest moving team agrees to let a player check the open market to see if there's a trade out there for his services, and hearing nothing episode that I can remember? Am I misstating this?
Yes and no. I mean, people talk all the time, but Howie's famous for, I think it was Thomas Dimitrov told me, and he's right. Howie asked a second round pick for everybody. Yeah. Jody McDonald, second round pick. That's where he starts. And Hassan Reddick, and I get it. People say, well, he should be worth a second round pick. And he should, production wise and all that, but he's not, because of the league, the way the league works. And we just saw it when you combine his contract and what he wants with what you got to get back, which would be that second round pick. We've already seen it with Brian Burns. We saw it with L'Jarius Sneed at cornerback. You're not getting that.
No.
Period. End of sentence. Now, there used to be more dumb GMs than there are now, at least when it comes, there's plenty of dumb GMs when it comes to evaluation, but there's less and less when it comes to valuation, who understand the market and what somebody's worth and what they have to give up for a particular entity at a particular time. And he's just not getting a second round pick. So, we went through this. We were talking before the show. I said, remember Zach Ertz? He was on the trade market forever, and they're holding out, and they asked for a second round pick, and they end up getting Tay Gowan and whatever it was, a mid-round pick for Zach Ertz when they finally pulled the trigger. With Hassan, they have the luxury, and this is one of the advantages of having Jeffrey Lurie as an owner, because everybody's focused on April 1st. Oh, they pushed $1 million back. Jeffrey will say, just keep him. We'll give him the $1 million. Maybe some other owners would balk at that. He's not balking at that. And then maybe you get to training camp or somewhere down the line, and maybe somebody gets hurt and somebody says, man.
I hear what you said about Jeffrey, and I agree with it, but then why did they even bother pushing it back? If Jeffrey just, hey, it's cost to do business, I'm going to take my pocket, I got to pay whatever I got to pay. Why they specifically say, let's go to Hassan, which got to ask permission. Eagles couldn't just institute it. They had to get Hassan's permission. So you got to go to him and go, listen, we want to push back. Why even bother if Jeffrey's just got cash to burn?
Well, because you're trying to do business with Hassan and Tory Dandy as well. So you're trying to put forward a good faith effort that you're trying to actually move them, and you're trying to actually find a spot and find a situation. So you say, we'll kick it back 2 weeks, and maybe that'll generate some more interest, or we have a longer shelf life to generate the interest. So you're working, both sides of it. You're trying to make them happy. You're trying to figure out something for your own team, or you're trying to figure out something where you can get value for Hassan Reddick. So I think that's more about, hey, we're trying, keep looking, keep doing that, but we're not going to give you away. That type of thing from the Eagles is how I would spin it. And if he wants $25 million, as some have speculated, day 3 pick at best. And are the Eagles going to accept that? Not right away. And that's why you wait, and maybe somebody has an injury, like I said, and maybe somebody has a desperation. This is a very important position around the NFL, not just in Philadelphia. So, desperation could come into it at some point. You might get to after the draft, and people draft an edge rusher, and they get them in the off-season work or camp, even as late as training camp, and say, oh boy, this isn't what we thought it was going to be. This guy's not going to be able to hit the ground running. So there's a lot of time, and the luxury of time. The Eagles will use it, and that's why I point to Zach Ertz. I mean, Zach Ertz was on the trading block for over a year, and they just wouldn't give him up, and they wouldn't just give him away for nothing, and eventually they had to. But they'll do the same thing here, I think. And all the while they do that, they will try to convince Hassan to come back for 18, 19, 20 million on a 1-year deal, reworked, all the money up front, something of that nature. Maybe 2 years, maybe you spin it into 2 years. That's a possibility as well. I've always thought that's the best possibility. Actually, I've only wavered a little bit because they have so many other edge rushers now. And at some point, if you want to get these guys, if you really want to get Nolan Smith involved, and I don't know if they do, but they seem to be serious when they say they want to get him involved. I don't know how you're getting them involved if Hassan's back. I don't.
Right.
To a significant degree. With
the addition of Huff, they've got even more, because someone's taking Derek Barnett's play. If Hassan's back and the Sweat is back and BG's back, somebody's basically filling in for Derek Barnett. That would be Huff. Huff's going to be playing a hell of a lot more than Derek Barnett did, and they still couldn't get Nolan Smith on the field. So where's the rub? Where does it come in? Doesn't seem to add up. That's why I'm less optimistic than you are that Hassan's going to be back. And your comparison.
And don't forget the Wish.com version of Andrew Van Ginkel and Zach Baun. Don't forget that.
Good luck with that one. I think that's going to be the most massively overstated Eagle sign in some circles. Some are just keeping it at its proper perspective, but some are talking him up as if he's going to be a key double-digit sack contributor for because you're right. They compared him to Van Ginkel. How many sacks did Van Ginkel have last year? 10. So if Zach Baun gets 10 sacks, I'll give who was that? Was that Howie or was that Nick? I forget who it was who compared. It was Howie compared him to Van Ginkel. So when it gets double-digit sacks, I give you a high five, Howie. Until then, I'll hold off on that one. Yeah, I'm starting to get nervous. I think they're going to end up having to cut him, Johnny Mac, and that's why I asked the question before the year started. If they're going to cut him, let's say that they after the draft, teams take whoever they're going to take. So you're sitting there in May. And you really want to get on with the rest of your life, and you know you can't trade them anywhere, you want to certainly push it back till after June 1st, because then you can spread the dead cap hit out over 2 years. Each team only has so many after post June 1st. If you do it after June 1st, then it doesn't matter. But you can designate after June 1st for whatever reasons and spread a dead cap hit money over 2 years. How many do each team in the league get? You can't just do it 20 times with 20 players. There's a limit to it, right?
Yeah, you only get two post June 1st designations. So,
and have the Eagles used one or two of their post?
Zero.
They haven't used any.
Point.
Okay.
No.
Now, Kelsey and Cox don't count. Post June 1st retirement designations are different than cut designations.
No, they're not different from a bookkeeping perspective. It's the same as cutting a guy when it comes to the dead money and the cap savings. But and I asked Brad Spielberger this question when we had him on last, because I was interested in how you do that, what teams have been doing and what the Eagles are doing. They're going to carry Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox until June 1st.
They are.
Yeah. And they're still, like, if you go to Over the Cap or Spotrac or whatever, they're still there because they're still counts against the top 51, and they will until June 1st. And June 2nd, they'll file the papers, and they'll be able to split it, as you mentioned. Still accelerates, but they'll be able to split it. Now, you could do it. You could do the post June 1st designation. They also seem to rework the deals, lower the salary to as much as possible when it comes to retiring players. And again, another bookkeeping trick that Jake Rosenberg was very good at, and why he's a bigger loss than probably people believe or people think. But yeah, they're going to carry them. And it looks like to me, because I don't think in a million years the Eagles are cutting Hassan Reddick. I don't. He's too good. He's too good of a player. They'll try to work it out on their own end and to get him back before they cut him. Is Bradbury. And I think Bradbury is about waiting until the draft. Can you trade up and get a Quinyon Mitchell? Can you solidify that opposite corner position from Darius Slay? If they can, they're probably going to cut him and designate him, obviously, post June 1st. If they can't, they're going to keep him. And I think that's the patient game when it comes to James Bradbury. If the Eagles cut on Reddick, I'll be stunned. So if teams around the league are waiting for that, yeah, I don't think that's a good strat.
Okay. No, you're at like 0%. I'm at like 10 or 15. I do not think it's impossible. I think it could come to that. And the difference between Bradbury, another one you threw out there about Zachary, they didn't give the player the availability to go out and cut their own deal. When you do that, you're designated in the fact that you are ready to move on from the player. You think you deserve something in return for his services. They didn't do that with Zach, and they haven't done it to this point with Bradbury. So I think they're all different in their own ways, and I'm scared that the Eagles.
Well, they are all different, but they all are all different. Nobody's exactly the same, but they have done it in the past. And usually when they do it, they did it with Josh Sweat this year, and they worked something out. And they did it with Darius Slay last year, and they worked something out. So they have done it in the past in that frame, and usually more often than not.
But hold on, time out, Philadelphia. The two guys you just mentioned, Slay and Sweat. Do you not think that they told both players, if we don't get a deal done, then chances are we're going to release you?
Well, in Slay's case, yes, because he thought he was getting released.
Right.
He said goodbye to Philadelphia. In Sweat's case, I don't know, but clearly when they work something out, yeah, I never got the feeling that they were going to cut Josh Sweat, but that would be more possible than I think Reddick. But I never got the feeling they were thinking about cutting.
Right. So that's why I'm not going to comp those two to Reddick. Reddick, they gave permission to go out and get a trade, which basically says, listen, we can't get a deal done, but we know your value. We think you have value. We don't want to walk away with nothing. So why don't you go out and see if you can find someone who wants to pay you what you think you're worth, and we'll work out a deal. They didn't do that with either, as far as I know, with either Sweat or Slay. So again,
oh no, they did that. They did that with Sweat. They did that. They
really. What team do you think they talked to potentially trade Sweat to?
Well, they gave him permission and his agent permission to seek a trade.
Really?
They did the same exact thing. Yeah. Oh yeah. And they worked something. And now a lot of times we talked about this with Randy Mueller. A lot of times you do that to not be the bad guy, to say, look, dude, you're overvaluing yourself. Go and if you don't believe us, here's permission. Go get permission to look at contracts, look at potential trades. And they did it with both Sweat and Reddick. And sometimes it's just as simple as saying, we're not the bad guy here. We're not being hardliners. In the case of Josh Sweat, it ended up being essentially correct. I do believe people would trade for Hassan Reddick, but again, you're talking about a day 3 pick for an all-pro level pass rusher, which doesn't seem fair on paper. And I get fans are going, how could you get a day 3? Well, because he wants $25 million on top of it. That's the problem. If we were making $2 million, yeah, they'd get a first round pick. But that's how it works.
And the other thing that you got to factor in, and some people kind of miss out on, is timing is everything in this. When you're doing it before free agency starts, and he basically becomes a free agent with a little extra cost on what you're going to have to pay the team to get his services, there's a better chance to get something done. Then you go through phase 1 of free agent, phase 2 of free, and then the draft. The longer you go, the less value he has. Teams are going in other directions.
Yeah.
They're signing other free agents. They're picking a defensive end guy in the 4th round that they how he got down, if we don't know, we think he's a potential first round. That's what they're going to tell you, of course, and they're not going to move off that until they get a look at him in camp. So Johnny, I'm glad for your optimism. I'm feeling very nervous about the Eagles getting nothing for Hassan Reddick, which I think is not good news. All right, here's good news. I see Paul Domowitch in the waiting room. He is ready to join us. He is Tommy Bahama clad. He is our boy from the 33rd team and JAKIBSports.com. He's joining us next. Paul Domowitch here on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today, and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams
deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
McMullen McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Happy Football Friday, everybody. Happy opening day while you're at it. We're watching the Phillies later on today. But we're talking Birds this morning. We're one of the best in the business. He covers the whole league for 33team.com and the Eagles specifically for us here at JAKIBSports.com. Mr. Paul Domowitch. Domo, if you had to, right here, right now, could you do a hip drop tackle?
Well, I think my two hip replacements might prevent that. So, no.
Hey, Damo, my question is, how long have you been covering this league, if you can do the math on that? And when did you first hear the term hip drop tackle?
I've probably heard it a few times over the years, but, never until they decided people were getting hurt from it, and nobody ever, it was kind of mentioned like a shoestring catch or a,
That's a good one.
I never heard that term, and I can't beat you, but I've been covering the league for a quarter of a century. I never heard that term till last year. I never heard that term. Jody brought it up on the show. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know what it is.
They weren't using the term when the leather, when I was covering them with leather helmets. So
there you go. Yeah, Damo's been at this a while. All right, so they came up with this decision there, quote unquote, banning it, which means it's going to be a penalty and/or it's going to be a fine. And Troy Vincent is certainly dropped hints, if not come right out and said it, because he can't. Don't expect a ton of flags on this. But this is something we're going to evaluate after the fact. They kept comparing it to the helmet rule, using your helmet rule. And that has certainly equated more to fines after the fact than penalties while in play. I don't like it either way, but it's less egregious if they're just going to make the guys pay a fine after the fact, that it's not major changing of the game 15 yards at a key juncture. So that lessens the stench of it, at least for me, a little bit. But here's the ancillary effect. I don't know if you saw Darius Slay say on social media, get ready for the missed tackles, everybody, because guys aren't going to want to pull a guy down. They're not going to bother because they don't want to get hit 17 grand, 34 grand, 60 grand after the fact. Is it going to have an effect on the way guys do or don't tackle next year in the league, Damo?
Well, none on Darius Slay since he wasn't tackling beforehand.
So. Shot on Slay, score.
Yeah, that's an easy one. That's low-hanging fruit right there.
They're not thinking when they're tackling him. They're trying to bring a guy down. And they don't think twice about the fines either. John Runyon's the guy that does the fining for Troy. And they've been, you've seen this with a lot of different infractions where, like you said, no flags, but they get a letter on Friday saying, "Oh, by the way, you've been fined $40,000 for this, for saying this or doing this." So I don't think it's going to impact tackling. I mean, I don't know. That's Darius Slay shouldn't say stupid stuff like that because it sets everybody up to get on him when he misses a tackle.
Yeah, Slay doesn't think it that far.
That's true.
He's just going to react off the top of his head. That's Slay.
He's in the moment. He's like Nick Sirianni. He's in the moment. He's a little bit too emotional. But I don't know if you heard when you're in the green room, but Jody and I were talking about Hassan Reddick April 1st. Yeah. I'm not concerned with that $1 million at all. I think Jeffrey Lurie will say, all right, give him the money. We'll continue waiting it out. Jody's a little bit more concerned that they might have to get in the realm of releasing him. I don't think there's any way they're releasing him. Am I wrong on that one?
No, I agree with you, John. I mean, I think we're going to see them at least wait until the draft when teams are a little bit more willing to give you something of value on the clock for a player like that if they've missed getting an edge rusher that they wanted in the first round, second round. So no, I think he'll swallow the $1 million and hang on to him for a while. I'm still not sure he's not going to be here, so we'll see.
But let me ask you this. What's going to change in their evaluation or valuation of Hassan Reddick? They've gotten to the point, you'd have to think they put it on the table as to what they think he's really worth. They're in good salary cap position now. They're going to get even better when they get after June 1st and get to spread Kelsey and Fletcher Cox's retirement. Is that what they're waiting for till after June 1st when they do have a little bit more salary cap flexibility? Because all I keep reading is Eagles have the 8th most salary cap room. Eagles have the 6th most salary cap room. They've done a great job, Howie and Jake Rosenberg, of managing the cap. Do they just not reach what in Hassan Reddick's mind he's really worth number? What would make them change, or what would make Hassan go, yeah, right, I'll play for less, after he's been holding his ground to this the entire time?
Well, from Reddick's standpoint, I mean, if he doesn't get any offers out there where he's not going to get more money, I would think he'd rather stay close to his hometown, even if it means swallowing his pride a little bit. From their standpoint, we go through the draft. If they don't end up getting a young edge rusher early on, it changes their stance maybe a little bit towards being willing to add a few dollars to Reddick's contract and keep him around for one more year. So, things can change. I mean, that's why nobody's in a hurry right now.
Can I add something to what you just said? And it's a pet peeve of mine with just fans in general, not just Philly fans, but maybe Philly fans a little bit more, but fans across the country. The whole stay-at-home factor. How'd staying at home work for DeAndre Swift? How'd staying at home work for Alameda Decaeus? He's heading down the turnpike to go play for the Commanders next year. People get so jacked up when a guy who played high school nearby or whatever, coming home. He's going to be so much better coming home.
Why TJ went to Chicago, though?
Well, right. It cuts both ways.
Yeah.
Do I think Hassan Reddick's going to bend over backwards and say, yeah, give me less because I'm a Temple guy? No, I don't. I think he's going to be in camp if they wait all the way till the season starts. John has continually said Hassan missed out on holding in last year. Well, if he should have held in last year, I guarantee you he's holding in this year. With Hassan Reddick, the Eagles are going to open camp. We're not going to see Hassan Reddick in uniform for weeks, maybe months. Maybe he miraculously gets better the week before the season starts, before he's got to get on the plane for Brazil. I have worries, Domo. This is not playing out well for my money.
You could be right, Jody. And I'm not suggesting, that he's going to take less to play here because he's from Camden or Haddon Heights or wherever you call his hometown. I just think it's a factor. I mean, his family's here, so if all things being equal, they haven't burned the bridge with him.
That's true. That's good on both sides.
They haven't said anything publicly to get him mad. So, I mean, I just think everything's still on the table here.
Yeah, and I think every situation's a little bit different, Tom. In the case of Alameda, maybe would like to stay, but he doesn't have the opportunity. There's another. Nick Sirianni said, as long as I'm here, Alameda Zaccheaus is going to have a role in my offense. Well, it's not his offense anymore. And Alameda's down in Washington. Didn't really have an opportunity to stay. But I will say this about Hassan. I can't imagine, and I'm with you. I think right now I've teetered towards he's going to be back more than he's going to be gone. But he's not making less money than Bryce Huff. So he's not, they're going to have to tweak it somehow. A one-year deal, make all the money guaranteed, get him up to 18, 19, 20 million. Then he might swallow his pride. But there's no way he's playing for less money than Bryce Huff. Nor should he, I think. That's my take on it. Yours?
Yeah, and I think they have enough cap flexibility for Howie to be a little bit creative here without breaking the bank, to make him happy enough so that he saves face and looks like he's, where he's happy.
All right, we brought up Alameda. John, thank you for reminding me of Sirianni's quote. Oh, he'll always have a role until he doesn't. So he moves down the turnpike. Have they done a good enough job to this point replacing Quez Watkins and Alameda Zaccheaus? Now, I know it's kind of a low bar that we're setting here.
And Julio.
And Julio. Well, Julio's still out there, right? Did Julio sign?
Yeah.
Who did he sign with? I didn't see that.
No, he didn't sign. He's still out.
Oh, he hasn't signed. So Julio could be back.
No,
so
he's still a free agent. Yeah.
Right, because Quez is officially done. He's on another team. Alameda officially done. He's on another team. Julio could be back. Don't discount that. So until you sign with another team, you're in the gray area in the middle. Paris Campbell, is that enough? Devontae Parker, is that enough, Damo? How would you rate the Eagles' signing of different wide receivers not named Smith and or Brown?
Yeah, I mean, I'm underwhelmed with both of those guys. I mean, Parker's, I think, toast. I don't know what he's got left. The separation numbers from the last 4 years pretty much tell you all you need to know about Devontae Parker. Paris Campbell, 5.2 yards per catch last year. I mean, come on. Could one of them be the third receiver? I guess.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I think the number 3 receiver could come out of the draft. It could be a guy that they're going to pick up here in the next few months. We're talking about a slot guy. So, let's see how the offense changes with Kellen Moore. Maybe that number 3 wide receiver is going to be insignificant. It was insignificant last year. I mean, pretty much. The slot receivers last year, I mean, the number 3 receivers caught very little passes. So, they're going to use the running backs more. They're going to use Goddard more. So I don't know. But the 2 guys they got on their roster right now don't do anything for me in Paris Campbell and Devontae Parker.
Well, if Devontae Parker's cooked, Damo, he's the replacement for Julio Jones. You just pencil those 2 in. They counteract each other. With Paris Campbell, I brought this up yesterday. Howie seems to be on this nostalgia kick. Yeah. Well, I liked him in the draft. Let's bring him in. All right. He's played 5 years and he's been terrible for 4 of them.
Yeah.
And you could argue terrible for 5, to be honest. He's better than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, but that's about it.
Hey, Jalen Reagor will be back soon.
Oh, don't go there, Damo. Don't say that out loud. Even if you think it, keep it to yourself. Don't say it out loud. You're only going to get yourself in trouble.
Now, Howie has this nasty habit of doing this.
Yeah.
Where he just, guys he missed on that he liked.
Kenny Pickett. He's there with the binoculars. Saquon Barkley. Now everybody likes Saquon coming out, but it's 2018.
Yeah.
Now it's 2024. Last time I looked, that's a long time in the NFL. Is he too nostalgic?
I think he is. Yeah. I think he does that too often. You like you said, 2018. You've got to factor in what a guy's done in the 6 years since or 5 years since, and you hopefully that changes your, or at least alters your opinion of what you thought of him when he got drafted. But how he tends to, what he liked then, he likes now. It's kind of like chocolate chip cookies.
All right, let's put Howie Roseman to the test here, Damo, and not go into the way back machine, but the more recent back machine. If you've done this exercise, then you'll know your answer right off the top of the head. If not, you have to think about it for a second. Feel free. Last year's Howie Roseman draft, what kind of grade would you stick on it for what Howie took in last year's draft? Because we give Howie credit all the time. John calls him the best general manager in football. I call him one of the best general managers in football. We both praise him pretty effectively. How would you rate Howie's draft last year, knowing full well to give it an honest grade, a true grade? You got to wait 3, 4, 5 years. So it's a short-term look at it. It's 1 year. Take for what you will. But what kind of grade would you throw on Howie's draft 11 months after it happened?
Give me the 3 guys after Carter.
Nolan Smith, Tyler
Sid Brown,
Steen, Sidney
Tyler
Brown.
Steen.
Yeah. Right now, I still think Jalen Carter is going to be a terrific player, but that's a B- draft right now.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that.
Yeah, we don't know. Tyler Steen, jury's out. Nolan Smith, the jury's out. Neither one has played much, which was a disappointment that that their snaps last year were so few. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I got the most hope in Kaylee Ringo. I like the way he looked at the end of last season. Sidney Brown, I think, we'll have to see when he comes back from the torn ACL. I think he showed some significant signs as well. Tyler Steen, I was interested at the owners' meetings. Boy, Nick really downplayed Tyler Steen. So I've kind of tempered my excitement over him. Nolan Smith, I don't know what to think other than hopefully he got in the weight room in the off season. Hopefully the procedure he had fixed his shoulder, and maybe you can turn into the prospect people thought he was. And then Tanner McKee, Moro Ujoma are kind of like flyers hits at the late part of the draft. Obviously, there's a lot of hype. Do they believe in Tanner McKee enough to be the backup quarterback? No, absolutely not. So people should pump the brakes on him as well. But if Jalen Carter turns into an all-pro, and I think he will, it's going to look pretty good long-term. One of the or two of those other guys will be contributors, I think.
Right. Snapshot look. I asked for it today.
Yeah.
Could a year from now, the C grade that Howie gets be a B+? Absolutely. If Jalen Carter plays all 17 games rather than 8 or 9 and has a major drop-off.
Yeah.
And Sidney Brown gets to just play his regular position of safety. Yeah, it's open-ended as far as evaluation goes, but right now, it's a C draft as far as I'm concerned.
The success of that defense rests with their last 2 number 1 picks.
Yes, it does.
I'm not just talking this year. I'm talking the next 2, 3, 4 years. If Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are anything less than Pro Bowl players, they've missed the boat, and it's going to really hurt them long term.
All right. I love bands. God love them, Damo. Now that the Eagles are losing Jake Rosenberg, they didn't know who he was to begin with. So now he's a pencil pushing nerd. I see in the comments. There's a bunch of pencil pushing nerds that can easily replace him. Is it that simple? The Eagles have been talking him up for years and years and years. Now he wants to leave, doesn't see the path to becoming a GM here because it's the GM factory, Damo. There's 4 or 5 future GMs in front of him. Is that going to be meaningful or non-meaningful or somewhere in between, as usually it is?
Well, it's less meaningful than losing an edge
player.
Yeah. Jake was good at what he did. He was a good cap guy, good contract negotiator. He had been with Howie for a long time, understood how he's thinking. So they were, he didn't have to run to him every time he was doing a contract. But like you said, you know, I mean, he's not really a football guy. He wants to be a GM, but and there are some that around the league that aren't necessarily football guys that somebody hires as a GM, and maybe that'll happen with him. But
yeah, and by the way, Howie created that path. Yeah,
exactly.
That path. Yeah.
And he learned, Howie then, I mean, to Howie's credit and to Andy Reid's credit and Joe Banner, who put him in personnel and had him learn the business, he became a good talent evaluator, although people still aren't ever going to give him credit for that because he's not a football guy. But, I mean, he's getting back to Jake, he's kind of lost in this, or was lost in this organization right now with, with guys like Alec Hackabee and Ferrari, who's their rules guy. And they've got a young cap guy they really like, Bryce Johnson. Yeah. So I think maybe Jake just thought, I'm going to go someplace else and try my luck.
All right, we got to do this every once in a while, Damo, when we've got a couple of days without talking about the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's the case. Have we mentioned Jalen Hurts' name once this week, John? No. I don't think so.
Well, we did with Justin Fields. I was surprised our buddy John Stolness said, Eagles fans, I took a shot at him. Now I'm going to give him more credit, Damo. They would be hankering for Justin Fields if Jalen Hurts played poorly, if he were the backup here. Boy, I don't think that's the case. You think I'm wrong on that one?
If he struggled really badly, I don't think he'd have to play much. Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean,
all right.
These fans are
probably is. Yeah, probably is. Probably.
And I'll add to that. And they could do that with Kenny Pickett this year. So my question was Pickett or Fields. Give me Fields because he's the better player, my personal opinion. And John made the if Fields is, they'll be asking for him to start if Jalen throws 3 straight incompletions. That's just fans in general. Doesn't matter who the hell the backup is. Put the backup in. Our starter just threw 3 incompletes, and the third one was a pick. Get his ass off the field. That's going to happen with anybody.
Yeah.
I guess it is a provincial.
That's not a Philly thing. Take it from a guy who does a national show. That's a Bronco thing. That's a Charger thing. That's a Falcon thing. That's every team. That's fans everywhere.
The old cliche is the backup quarterback is the most popular guy in town because they haven't seen him play yet. But they've seen Justin Fields play, or maybe they haven't. And they've seen Kenny Pickett play, or maybe they haven't. They've both been starting quarterbacks, and they both stunk up the joint. So I think maybe some of that seeps in. Maybe not, though. Maybe not, because, hey, go back to Howie. If everything's in a stasis and Justin Fields is coming out, yeah, I agree with you. Let's get Justin Fields on the field. But I've seen him on the field. So now it's a little bit different.
Justin Fields has some things that he does that excite people. I mean, the running.
Oh, a tremendous runner. Yeah.
Got a strong arm. You tend to ignore all the other shortcomings sometimes. And that would be the thing that you'd probably be a little fearful of happening if Jalen struggled and they turned on him.
All right. Brian Kelly, coach of LSU, might have tipped his hand yesterday. He was being asked about Jalen Daniels after his pro day, and he was singing his praises, which you knew he would, and just continually complimenting him his game and telling everybody what he would do when he gets to the NFL for Washington. He specifically said for Washington, and they have the number 2 pick. Does Brian Kelly know something that nobody else knows? Is this another James Franklin situation? Saying something you're not supposed to say? If somebody tells you something in confidence, you're not just supposed to go out there and spill it, like happened to the Eagles in this ongoing did they tamper negotiation investigation the NFL's doing. Are we writing Jaden Daniels in for the Skins, the Commanders at number 2, Damo?
I think Brian Kelly was just, in his mind, Jalen Daniels is so much better than May. And, that's what he was thinking. In his mind, he's thinking, Washington would be ill-advised to overlook Daniels.
You might be right.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense too. We were talking to Ian Cummings, our draft guy, yesterday, Damo. I said, well, Cliff Kingsbury is there. I want a guy who's going to run a spread offense, and that's Jaden Daniels. I think it makes sense too for Jaden Daniels to Washington. Not that he's a better prospect, that you can debate. Although I do love him for the modern NFL. I think he's the one guy who just and I have a bias against Caleb Williams, I freely admit, because I saw him play against Notre Dame. It was so god awful. I can't get over it. And I know you can't do that as a scout. You have to throw the outliers out. But it was so awful. I sat there and said, what do people see with this kid? It was so bad. Shane Daniels he reminds me of the, modern playmaker. Can run it, can throw it. Great accuracy. Dare I say Lamar Jackson-ish, not quite that athletic, but as far as throwing the football as well, I think he's going to be a big star. He's my number one quarterback, and I'm on an island there. But I love the kid. Yeah,
I'm gonna stick with Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
I'll take Drake May. So we'll go one apiece. That's perfectly fine.
Don't turn on that Notre Dame game, Damo. It'll turn you on Caleb Williams quick.
Yeah, I'm a May guy, and he supposedly threw very well. I got to watch some of it on the NFL Network. People do get work, and I get it. It's football. It's during the spring. Everybody wants to stay 365 days engaged. He's throwing against air, and he and everybody else did the same thing. How can you really tell?
My favorite pro day of all time, Damo, was Johnny Manziel's. Remember Johnny Manziel throwing over the broom? Yeah. Oh my God, he's throwing over a broom. Look at that touch.
Yeah.
And then off camera, he went to do another line, and maybe that foreshadow. I'm exaggerating.
The thing about those three quarterbacks, they're not all going to be successful. I mean, the odds say two max probably. One of them is going to be a bust.
Yep.
Right now.
Situation means everything. That's another reason I cringe for Caleb Williams. He's going to Chicago.
Yeah.
And the Bears have been known to mishandle quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You got a point, John.
Not exactly a.
Well, Washington's not great. Yeah, but they've changed. I have some hope because I think for the first time in a long time, obviously they're better. I don't even love Josh Harris from his time here with the Sixers, but he's a hell of a lot better than Daniel Snyder. And I think Dan Quinn is a competent coach.
Yeah. And he's got a good staff.
Yeah, and he's got a good staff.
Yeah, I don't know that he's got a good staff because I think the Eagles dodged a bullet in their hiring of their offensive coordinator, as a matter of fact. But that's just me. We'll see what he does down in.
You're a hater, Jody. You're a hater.
He's talking about Cliff. He's talking about Cliff.
Cliff Kingsbury. You want me to hold my hand up?
But Dama was talking about Brian Johnson.
Him too. Yeah. I'm a Cliff Kingsbury hater. And I got nothing against Brian Johnson except he sucked last year.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. He's terrible.
Yeah.
And he paid for it with his job, which I think he should have. Might be the nicest guy in the world and may even be good somewhere else where he's not working with Jalen Hurts. Maybe that whole dynamic was a problem, but he was bad enough here that he deserved to be fired. So if that's what you were thinking of, Damo, okay, I'll sign on for that one too. But I'm an anti-Kingsbury guy. So good luck taking Jaden Daniels. They'll rue that day in Washington as well. But I like what the general manager's done in Washington. I do think they've upgraded their front office. All right, what are you doing Saturday afternoon, Domowitch? Will you be, assuming you're in front of the TV somewhere, the wife doesn't have you out to paint in the backyard, the back of the house, whatever. If you're in front of your TV on Saturday afternoon, what are you watching? Will you have Fox on? Do you know what is on Fox Saturday afternoon?
Give me a hint.
The first UFL game of the season.
UFL.
Come on, Dama, you got to be there in front of the TV. UFL action this weekend. Here's a question I don't know the answer to. I hopefully one of you two guys do. What kind of kickoff are they going to do in the UFL?
I think they're doing the XFL kickoff. I think. I'm not 100%.
Neither am I.
I think they've kept it. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I think USFL is a better name than UFL. I think XFL is a better name than UFL, so they screwed it up and took the worst name possible. Yeah, spring football is never going to work. I'm sorry. I like it for the fact it gives players opportunities to keep, and the NFL will sign a host of the better UFL players when right before training camps are set to open. I like that part of it, but man, it's just people aren't going to watch it. I mean, they just aren't. They don't like minor league product.
Yeah, but Johnny Mac, it's football and it's on TV.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not going to be terrible. It would just, I don't know the quality of football. The TV numbers will not be that bad. If you can bet on it, it's football. People are going to tune in. Mark my words on that one. But here's my question. You, Damo, if you want to, feel free to jump in here, but it's more of a McMullen question. Where's The Rock going to be Saturday? Isn't he like still tied? Didn't he?
Yeah, he's a big part of the UFL.
Hello, how many days till WrestleMania? He's going to be wrestling at WrestleMania. How can he be a UFL game?
Yeah,
who is he more dedicated to? WWE or the UFL? Make a call, Rock.
You know, it's easy when you got the private jet treatment to be a bunch of places. He'll be at a UFL game, and then he'll take the private. He'll be in Philly all week. So yeah,
he's got a lot of money invested in that league.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got a lot of money to invest. So
that's true too.
Rock will be at Lincoln Financial Field April 6th and 7th, I believe. And I will be there too on
WWE.
Yeah, WrestleMania, Lincoln Financial Field. Lane Johnson will be there. Who else? BG will be there. BG is a big wrestling fan. Vinny Curry, super wrestling fan. Vinny will probably be back for that. So a lot of Eagles.
How about Kelsey?
Kelsey's more
a high-profile guy.
Yeah,
he knows where the spotlight shines.
Oh yeah, he's savvy. I don't think but he is savvy. He would bring WWE brought that big gold belt around for all the Eagles. Kelsey grabbed it right away because he knows he's savvy. He's savvy. So he got the PR. He got the PR from it.
All right, Damo, I will ask this question not every time we have him, but once a month, somewhere thereabouts until we get to August. You got your passport updated for Brazil? Yeah, come on. The first ever. Jeff Lurie, if he was excited about anything, more than anything else, more than Sirianni and his attitude, and he knows how to fix things, well, it seemed to me like he was more excited about Brazil than anything else. So the owner is pumped and psyched that the Eagles are the forerunner into South America and the like. Did it suck Paul Domowitch in enough to go, yeah, I better get my passport updated?
Yeah, no.
Well delivered, Damo. Very well delivered.
By the way, Dave Zangaro, who is a world traveler, Dave loves to travel on his all-time. Never mind. Informed me that you not only need your passport, you need a visa for Brazil. So, it's going to be a lot of hurdles for that one.
Yeah. I have not been on an airplane since COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
Lucky you, man.
Yeah, me neither.
It's gotten bad.
We've been able to stay home. Good for us, Damo. I just thought you might be heading to Brazil. I thought maybe Jeff Lurie won you over, but apparently he didn't win me over either. All right, so Damo, so if you're not watching UFL on Saturday, what are you doing? Watching the Phillies? You got a to-do list for the wife? You're going to be with me betting the Arkansas and Florida derbies. I know you're a under-the-radar degenerate horse racing better, just like me. What will you be doing Saturday?
Well, I think I'll start with something exciting like cutting the grass and then maybe watch a British detective series. How's that?
That's not bad.
You and Matt now with those British detectives.
I'm with them. I'm sorry, but the Brits do TV better than we do. I'm sorry, they do. Yeah. The better.
Is your TV constantly on Acorn TV? Is that the network that has?
Well, I need a new one, Damo. So if you got a new one, text me. Let me know.
Try Trigger Point on Peacock.
Trigger
Point.
All right.
And on Peacock, that's better. That's actually American.
Outstanding. Yeah.
All right,
All right,
Domo.
Trigger
Always a pleasure, brother. We'll talk to you again next week. Have a great weekend, bud.
Take care, guys. Good
Thanks,
talk.
Domo.
Paul
All right,
Domowitch.
Trigger Point. I'm writing that down. I got Peacock. I might as well jump on that.
I have Peacock too. I got enough other crap I got to watch. I'm not getting into a new.
Yeah, I got too much. I'm way behind. But he's right. And Macnow's right. They're the best ones. Not all of them, because occasionally you get but the best ones are phenomenal. I agree with those guys.
I don't know why, but it just, and this will tell you something about me. British accents for women, alluring. British accents for men, stupid.
Well, when they call women ma'am, it sounds like mom. It sounds like you're calling a mom. That bothers me. But other than that, I'm fine with it. Especially when Daniel Craig would say mum as James Bond. That bothered me.
I got no use for male British accents whatsoever, but I do like women, a woman with an alluring British accent.
I like a woman with any accent. So yeah,
we're not going to be talking in British accents here for the hour left on Birds 365, but we will talk plenty Eagles, and we will do so with Ed Pratt. He's going to join us a little over 20 minutes from now. Eagles fans, in my best non-British accent, let me give you a helping hand and try and save you some money, specifically on your car insurance. Birds fans, here's your chance to save upwards of 40% on your car insurance right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call one of the two managing general partners. That would be either Fran or Jim, and tell them you're a friend of both JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Delval Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at JAKIB. At DryTech, we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac here with you on Birds 365, a football Friday. Hour left to go. We got Eddie Kratz up in less than 20 minutes from now. Thank Damo for hopping on. We talked a little bit about the coach and what he had to say at the owners' meetings this week. I know it annoyed John, annoyed me, probably annoyed all you Eagle fans as well. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything about the offense. He went into full-blown competitive advantage mode.
Man.
Asked about. And I guess you just have to accept it if you're an Eagle fan. This is the way this guy's going to do business. Even though both John and I are well on record saying he overdoes it, and I don't even know if he believes it, or it just may be a dodge that he has put into place.
Oh, he believes it. That I will say. He believes it. He believes others are lazy and not taking advantage of things.
What do you mean by that?
He believes other coaches just feel the way I feel and that it doesn't matter. And he thinks everything matters. And yeah, I disagree with him. Yeah, but he believes it.
But if he really believed it, then he would answer every question with that. Yeah, I can't say anything because it would give the other team an advantage. Why did you pull the starting left guard? Well, I can't answer that question because we're going to play someone next week, and I don't want to give them a competitive advantage. There has to be a line you draw at some point. Here's where you can legitimately answer a question, and here's where if you answer it, you are truly putting your team at a disadvantage by answering the question, and we all debate on where that line should be. He draws it way closer to the can't answer that question than any other coach in the National Football League, as I'm concerned. Is that not fair to say?
No, I don't think that's fair. Nick's kind of a conundrum in that he generally is a good guy and he generally tries to help us, the reporters, do the best job we can do. So he's sort of teetering on a difficult line. There's guys like Andy. I mean, Andy's I got to do a better job. I got to do a better job. I got to do a better job. And they give you nothing. Bill Belichick, unless you ask him a history question, would give you nothing. So he, his connection thing isn't like bull crap. He believes in that. He believes in connecting.
Well, that I believe.
With people. And that goes from everybody obviously the players are far more important, but Jeff Kerr was telling me a story when he was down there in Orlando, and he said Jeff was surprised he knew his name because Jeff's not there every day. Right. I'm like, no, he does that. He sees a new face. He asks Bob Lang or somebody at the Eagles, who's that? He'll introduce himself. He tries to connect with people everywhere, up and down his life. And the same thing with the competitive advantage thing. As much as I think it's silly, and I do think it's silly, and I have told him I think it's silly, he believes it. He does. Now, is he disciplined enough to be Andy Reid? He doesn't want to be Andy Reid. He wants to, if you ask him a question, he wants to give you the best answer possible without giving up what he thinks is, proprietary information, as Jeffrey Lurie would say it.
And if you think he's a good dude and you deal with him, I don't. So I'll take your word for it there. And he seems to be a really good dude to me, but it doesn't mean I can't just say, what the hell are you doing, coach? You got to be able to answer that question. can't just hide behind competitive advantage. You got to be a little bit more realistic. I have no problem calling him on the carpet for that. I'll give you something else that I'm going to call the coach on the carpet for. And that is before he became the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was the 1 year. Did he do 1 year as Colts offensive coordinator? Was he like
No, it was a couple of years.
Was he a couple of years? But he didn't call plays, right? Frank Reich called the
No,
plays.
Frank called the plays. Frank called the plays. But even that is, I compare it to Andy Reid. Like a lot of people said that Doug Peterson didn't call plays. Well, technically he didn't, but Andy would give him play calling for stretches. Maybe a half here, maybe a quarter, and you wouldn't even know it. Frank did that as well. Doug did that here with Press Taylor, Rich Scangarella. Nobody even knew it. So sometimes that stuff is not as cut and dry as people think it is. He called plays, but not officially, but he did it at times.
Fair enough, but we'll say limited at most play calling for him as the OC in Indianapolis. And prior to that, he was a wide receiver coach, and he worked with wide receivers. He was a wide receiver, not Division I, potential draft status. We all know the stories of his college and his team and his coaches and the like, and give him credit for that. He always gets excited when he gets a chance to talk about it, and good on him for that. But his evaluation of wide receivers, Johnny Mac, is not good.
Well, he's also a quarterbacks coach with the Chargers.
Right. But he was a wide receiver as a player, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes.
And he was a wide receiver coach before he was a quarterback coach, correct?
It was weird. He was a quality control coach in Kansas City. Everybody starts, almost everybody. And then his first non-quality control job was assistant quarterbacks coach in Kansas City. Then he became the wide receivers coach in Kansas City. Then when he lost his job there, because they were 3-13 with Romeo Crennel, or 2-14, or some god awful record, he went to San Diego, and he was the quality control coach in San Diego. And then he became the quarterbacks coach, and then he switched to wide receivers. So he's toggled back and forth. And then he got the big break as Frank's offensive coordinator in Indianapolis for 3 years, I believe. So he in each position, he actually started out with quarterbacks and then moved to receivers, which I'm not sure if it's good or bad.
I will tell you just my interpretation of him evaluating wide receivers, not good, because he bought into the Quez Watkins thing last year, that if you're looking for a guy who's going to have a breakout season, he said it in July during camp, Quez Watkins. You guys aren't giving Quez Watkins. You guys don't understand Quez Watkins enough and how he actually makes Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown better players because the threat of him going deep. Right, coach. Yeah, okay. And then the season happened and Quez Watkins did diddly squat. And the quote that you gave earlier in the show, if I'm the head coach, Alamaze Zacchaeus will always have a place on a roster that I'm coach. Except he doesn't. Except he had to walk out the door with no offer from the Philadelphia Eagles. And that Johnny Mac, he swings and misses a lot on wide receivers. This is supposed to be his ballywick. This is what he's supposed to know. He's a former wide receiver. Do you like? I asked this of Damo. He went, yeah, I'm sitting on an 0 for 2. The Eagles needed to upgrade their wide receivers. Like Jeffrey Lurie said the other day, not only get back to where we were, Super Bowl level, we need to go above and beyond because they didn't win that Super Bowl. Butker 3 seconds ago, I don't need to relive it with everybody. But they need to get better. If they've gotten better, it's purely because they were so mediocre at it last year. And I know I'm talking about a third wide receiver, not a first or a second, and the Eagles have 2 star wide receivers on their roster right now. but they play a lot of 11 personnel. They got 3 wide receivers out there on the field all the time. It isn't like your growing up days or my growing up days where you had 2 receivers, a tight end, a halfback, and a fullback. That's not the NFL anymore. It's 3 wide receiver sets, a starting player on the field the majority of the time. Have the Eagles done enough here for wide receiver during this offseason, Johnny Mac?
No, but I would say,
well, where are they going to upgrade? How are they going to upgrade? Is there anyone out there still sitting? Like, at least I can say with Justin Simmons, I'd love to add Justin Simmons to the Eagles.
No, I think they're going to take a wide receiver in the draft, maybe even in the second round. I don't think they'll take one in the first round, but maybe in the second round. If not, that's why Paris Campbell's here, is a draft proof aspect, not that, oh, he's the third receiver, he's the slot receiver. He might be, but I think they still want to upgrade. And we'll see.
Don't they need more? Don't they need to do more than draft proof? Don't they need to upgrade? Don't they need to improve?
You got to be careful. You got to be careful, because I think they're, if you go too high on the free agent market, and now all those guys are gone, the better receivers. Anyway, you're down to Olamide Zaccheaus of the world signing in Washington. We're in that phase of free agency. So if you were saying early, trade for Keenan Allen or something like that. Well,
that's too good. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
You got when it's a needle we're asking Howie Roseman to thread, and I get that it's not easy, but you can't go get a superstar wide receiver because you already got 2 superstar wide receivers.
Yeah,
but you don't want just another body, a jag guy, to be your third. I want a better than what they've had guy without having to pay a large salary or actually think the guy's going to come in and go, yeah, I need 80 targets this year. Because that's
I think that was I think that's a bigger thing in the draft for a couple reasons. And one is because I think they see the long-term need as well. And it's going to be very difficult to pay A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith once Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase reset the wide receiver market. So I think they're cognizant of they want that to be a younger player who has some upside. You got to get that right. They've had a very difficult time developing receivers, with the exception of Devontae Smith, who is pretty much ready-made for them. For all the criticism of college players not coming in ready to play, that was not the case with Devontae Smith. So I think Nick Saban deserves more of the credit for that. And obviously AJ was already a star when he got here. Just got better. So I think they're cognizant of, they want a young player who can grow, and Howie's got to get that right. And 2 things, because look, if you were at the owners meeting bending elbows with Nick Sirianni and Matt Eberflus as they missed the class picture, and he was telling the truth, he's not going to tell you Quez Watkins is a star receiver. He's trying to play he had a player who was lacking confidence because he had a bad year, and he's trying to buoy and trying to build him up and trying to utilize the best way possible. In the case of Zaccheaus, and same thing with Zach Pascal, he does like their dirty work, but he's not going to tell you they're great receivers. He likes what they bring to the table as role players, as dirty work players. And if it were up to him, yeah, probably Olamide would be. It's not up to him. Guess what? It's up to Howie Roseman. And Howie likes Paris Campbell, and Paris Campbell can run and this and that. I don't know how you can run a 4.31 and average 5.3 yards per catch, but Paris Campbell did it. So he doesn't have control over the personnel. I don't think, if you're honest, again, if Nick was being honest, he's going to tell you, oh, Devontae Parker's a big-time player at this stage of his career, or Paris Campbell. So more of that to me falls on Howie than Nick, to be honest. But he's got to get it right in the draft. if they get a Brian Thomas or somebody like that, that's probably too good. You probably got to get him at 22. They probably can't get him. So second round receivers, 50, 53, starting looking in that range. And they got to hit on that guy,
Right.
I would say.
And I'll give you a guy. Matt Miller, ESPN. You know, Matt, he's been doing it forever. He's been one of ESPN's draft analysts forever. Put out his latest mock. And apparently he's been listening to our shows here on Birds 365 and my shows on CBS Sports Radio. Because top 3 picks, Eagles selection, are guys I would be ecstatic if they were on the board when the Eagles picked in each of the 3 picks. First round, he's got Wiggins, the cornerback from Clemson, who I think might be the second best cornerback in the draft. And if he falls to 22, I'd love to see the Eagles take him. I think he'd be a perfect fit in a Fangio defense. In any defense, I think he's that talented a player, and I think he'll probably, if I were drafting, I'd draft him before 22. But I'm hoping he drops to 22 for the Eagles. In the second round, they got him taking the linebacker from NC State, Peyton Wilson, which is a second-round pick linebacker for the Eagles. Don't know that it's going to go there for how he is upgrading the linebacker. They overpaid for Devin White. Maybe they'll overdraft a linebacker. You never know. So I'll take Peyton Wilson. And the third pick at 53, Devontae Walker, wide receiver from North Carolina. He was the main guy for Drake May this past year, transferred in. He got suspended at the start of the season, which was just stupid. He didn't deserve to be suspended. When he came in, he played really well for him. Had 7 touchdowns, 8 games, almost 700 yards. That's right in his sweet spot. End of second round, somewhere thereabouts. I would have him as a top 60 player. If I could name 3 guys that I thought realistically were going to be available, not like overdrafting a guy, having to pick a guy in that you think's a 5th rounder just to take him in the 3rd round to make sure you get him. Those would be 3 of my favorite players and fill positional needs on all 3 of the picks. Matt Miller, I hope you're working on inside information. I hope that's exactly the way the draft shakes out, because I do mean what I say about the wide receiver spot. It can't be a toss away 7th rounder. It can't be Quez Watkins all over again, John.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be Quez Watkins. Remember, I mean, Quez, they carpet bombed the wide receiver position that year, and Quez was the last one. It was Jalen Reagor, it was John Hightower, it was Quez Watkins. Quez wasn't supposed to be the 3rd receiver. The other guys just stunk on ice, and he was the best of the 3. They're going to have to draft one relatively early, as I said, and they have to hit on them, and they haven't been successful other than Devontae Smith, who was a finished product. As we said, you look at that draft, Jalen Reagor, John Hightower, Quez Watkins, for all the crap he got, he was better than those 2, which ain't good.
No. So that's a position that we don't talk about. And understandably, we don't talk about it because they got 2 great guys in front of them. But the 3rd wide receiver can still be a key position on a football team in the NFL in 2024. All right, you got McDonald and McMullen, a.k.a. Mac and Mac. We've got another follically challenged individual joining us next. That would be our buddy. He's getting all pumped up because WrestleMania is coming to Philadelphia.
He's a real wrestling guy.
Yeah,
I'm the predetermined stuff. That's
you and I both.
You can ask him about the NCAA championships, though, and Penn State's domination of it. He'll tell you all about that.
I actually got a tweet this weekend. Eddie, we're coming, I promise, on CBS about talking about WrestleMania. Somebody brought up WrestleMania on my show, and I was wrestling a sport or something, so I had to explain it's predetermined, blah, blah, blah. And I got it legitimate. I don't think this was a trolling tweet. I think someone really doesn't understand. How can you call wrestling predetermined? I was a collegiate wrestler. I said, do you really not get it? Do you not understand that the WWE?
There's always one. There's always one. There's always one.
I don't know if he wasn't listening closely enough. I thought that we expanded on it enough to explain what we were talking about. But the guy was literally pissed off at me. How dare you talk about wrestling being predetermined? Okay, bud, calm down. Take an Advil. All right, Ed Kratz, he gets it. He understands the difference between real wrestling, his wrestling, and a WWE.
No, mine's the real
entertainment.
wrestling. It's the the boring stuff.
Eddie's got the real wrestling.
When
WWE has the real entertainment.
When they start bringing out folding chairs, I'll agree with you. That's what I need. I need entertainment in my wrestling.
The NCAA championship, if they put it on pay-per-view, might come back with a goose egg as compared to the WWE, which does billions of dollars. One's real athletic competition. The other one's about as entertaining as it gets, but they're two different things. We'll parse all this with Ed Kratz next here on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Maga Mac here with you on Birds 365. We've got Ed Kratz with us, Johnny's running partner from Sports Illustrated. Eddie K, earlier this week, the Eagles contingent was out at the owners' meetings. Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni all spent time talking to the media. What was the most important thing you heard? Something that will have relevance, good or bad, going forward with the Eagles from either the coach, the general manager, or the owner?
Well, I thought it was interesting to hear Nick Sirianni kind of admit they're not done adding at the offensive line position, which kind of opens up a whole ball of wax as far as will the Eagles go with an offensive lineman in the first round, or a cornerback, which everybody seems to want. A lot of people are mock drafting the Eagles to pick a cornerback and maybe try to move up for one. But Nick Sirianni saying that we still need to add at that position, I guess wasn't so much of a surprise as it was that it was an admission that they need to do more. And it's kind of dried up in free agency, I think. I'm not sure what's out there. Dalton Reisner is still a capable guard, but he was available last year, and the Eagles didn't bring him in. So I think we need to keep our eyes open that, I know you were talking about receivers being kind of maybe an underrated piece to what they need here in the draft. But I think O-line, as deep as that position is in the first round, if you're sitting there at 22 and there's a lineman that you really like on the offensive side of the ball, I think the Eagles could possibly grab him. So that's kind of what stuck out to me was next.
Let me double down on that for you.
Yeah.
There are two type of offensive linemen, at least in my book. And I know flexibility is a key, but Stoutland is also on record as saying, when I change one, I'd prefer not to change another. I want to have to make two moves and change two different guys. When you say offensive lineman, you're talking interior, outside. Are we talking guard, center, or are we talking tackle?
Yeah, it's hard to spend that kind of pick, a 22nd overall pick, maybe on the interior of the offensive line. Although, guards are starting to get paid now. We saw Landon Dickerson land a big deal here. We've seen some other guards get some pretty sizable contracts during free agency. So maybe, kind of like the running back position was undervalued and we saw teams start to pay some running backs. Maybe guards are getting into that stratosphere as well, but I'm not sure that would be a good expenditure. So I would think it would probably be a tackle who can play guard, kind of like Tyler Steen, who I don't think they want to start him. I think they want to use him.
They downplayed him, Ed. I was surprised. That's as close as Nick Sirianni will get to say, yeah, he's not ready. He didn't say that, but the way he was talking, that's the way it came off to me.
Right. I think they value him more as a kind of a reserve, kind of like a Jack Driscoll type, that super reserve that can kind of step in and, if an injury happens in game or, if you're going to be without somebody for a couple of weeks. I think that's kind of how they view him. So I prefer to take a tackle that can, learn how to play guard. J.C. Latham, the kid from the University of Alabama, I think is a perfect example of someone that, he's got a guard type, body and a build and an ability, but he projects as a tackle. But I think he could be a guy that you could draft that you can cross train. And I think you can do that with, a few other guys in the draft too. And Stoutland's one of the best at doing that. So, I don't think you would go with a guy like Zach Frazier, the West Virginia kid who I love and came to mind when you guys were talking about NCAA wrestling versus the other wrestling.
The real stuff.
The real stuff. I mean, Zach Frazier is a 4-time state wrestling champion. I love guys like that. I think, the wrestling skill set translates to football and vice versa better than any other sport out there. But, I don't think you would take that type of player who really just kind of projects as a center and maybe you can play him at guard. Same with the kid from Oregon, Jackson Powers Johnson, I think his name is.
He's the guy. Yeah, the three first names, Jackson, or the three last names, Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah.
He's the one guy who I look at because he can play center, he can play guard. Would you consider? But I'm with you. I think the Eagles, their thought process is the other way. So I'm trying to figure out which of the three, Tyler Guyton, Amarius Mims, and J.C. Latham, can play guard the best early on. And you're probably right. It's probably Latham, right, of those three?
I would say, yeah. I mean, obviously he'll need to work at it, and he'll be a work in progress at guard because I think he's mostly a tackle, played mostly tackle, I think, at Alabama. But yeah, I think he projects as someone that can go in there and play guard for you, and then maybe get him ready to take over for whenever that day Lane Johnson retires or not. Find Lane Johnson's retirement in a year or two, depending on how long Lane has left. But there's another guy, that Fontenot guy, Troy Fontenot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pretty good prospect too.
I don't think he's going to be there, though. I think those three, that's the reason I put those three names up there. I think they have a shot to be there at 22.
Mm-hmm.
And which one, I'm trying to figure out which one of those three can better handle playing guard, because I think you're right. I don't think they want to draft a guy at 22 who's going to sit behind Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata for 2 years.
Right.
I think they
I've
want
been
to get
telling
him
you
on
that
the field.
for months, John.
Yeah,
It's
but
gonna
I
be
think,
the tackle
but I
thing
think
out there.
that's the plan. The plan is to start him at right guard and then kick him out to right tackle when Lane eventually retires. I think that's the goal. And I keep landing on Guyton because 2 reasons. One, Lane loves him and Lane's mentoring him. And that happened with, it even goes further than Jason Kelsey and Cam Jurgens. Jason Kelsey just loved Cam Jurgens as a prospect. He wasn't mentoring him. Lane's actually mentoring this kid. And, if they believe he can play guard, he's a natural right tackle. That's what he played in college. I think that's a perfect fit. I just don't know if he can play guard.
I think it's all a projection. Even for someone like Latham, I mean, I think it's all projection. Can they play guard at this next level? The Eagles are going to have to feel comfortable with it. They're going to rely on the input of Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, he know. He'll know. But that's what makes it so intriguing. I don't know if Guyton can do it, but maybe. Same with Latham. I don't know if he can do it, but maybe. And maybe you do trade up. Maybe, how he's traded up in 4 of the last 5 drafts, right? So you got to think that he's going to be working the phones and he's going to try to do it again. And, what's he going to come up for? Is he going to come up for a cornerback like maybe a Quinion Mitchell or
that's who I think they're going to, if they go the targeted trade up route, Ed, which they have done, as you mentioned, a lot in the past few years, I think it would be for Quinion Mitchell. I think that would be the guy. But they might have to go up pretty high, not 22 to 20. They might have to go up 22 to 15. That's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, you're right. That's a pretty big jump, and you don't know what it would cost them. They do have those 2 second-round picks to play with. They'd probably obviously have to part with one of those, and maybe Howie would do that. But my contention with the cornerbacks is everybody's talking about them, and yeah, I get it. You want to have somebody to come in here and be ready, but you still have James Bradbury, who they seem intent on sticking with at this point. You have Keely Ringo, who they really, really like, who could become a starter on the outside. And I know Slay's older, but Slay is still playing at a pretty high level. You'd like to maybe give him some reps off during the course of a season to kind of manage his play, like they've done with Brandon Graham. Obviously, they wouldn't do that to Slay as far as, limiting him to 20 snaps like they do with Graham, but you'd like to see someone come in maybe and take some snap load off him. And maybe that's why, cornerback gets a lot of mention. And plus they gave up 35 touchdown passes last year.
Yeah, that.
So, obviously there's something to taking a cornerback, but man, they haven't done it in so long. And I know they wanted to in the past when, they wanted to get J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain when they were there, a couple of years ago. They just got picked before they were able to get up high enough to grab one, but they haven't taken one since 2002 with Lito Shepherd. That's a long.
When was the last time they took a guard with a 1st-round pick?
Danny Watkins back in 2011.
Oh yeah, let's repeat that immediately. Let's put that to the top of the to-do list. Let's get ourselves another Danny Watkins. Yeah, go Birds.
Well, you have to investigate the background and make sure there's no firefighting.
Or Jackson Powers Johnson shouldn't pay for the sins of Danny Watkins, but sometimes
and listen, Danny Watkins just didn't have the passion for the game, as it turned out. And that's
gotta love ball. Gotta love ball, Ed.
Yeah, right. So, just because you take a guard doesn't mean, oh my gosh, he's going to be the next Danny Watkins. But you do have to look at their background and see if they do love ball. They love guys that love ball. So if those guys don't love ball, they're not coming here. So but John's right. I wouldn't penalize Jackson Powers Johnson or Zach Frazier or Graham Barton.
Well, yeah, I am penalizing, but one, and the previous one before that was. So there's been one more corner than taken. Which was first, Watkins or Lito? You got to go back how many more years to take cornerback. I think there's a much better chance at taking a cornerback than a guard. And I get it. If he's a tackle/guard, that they're going to move back out, that changes the math a little bit, but not a whole hell of a lot. If you're planning on starting a guy next year at guard because you don't think Tyler Steen is good enough to step in, then you're drafting him as a guard.
Yeah, but here's why here's why I don't like looking back at any team, not just the Eagles. And they haven't taken a cornerback since this. They haven't taken a an all
linebackers. It's Jerry Robinson. We all know the guys.
And on and on and on. Guard since Danny Watkins, cornerback since Lito. They would have taken J.C. Horn if they had the opportunity. They would have taken Christian McCaffrey if they had the opportunity. Other teams are involved, 31 other teams, and sometimes you don't get the player you want. And sometimes it's a player at that particular position. They seem to have been wanting to get a cornerback for years now. So I think it's more in the realm because they know they have to replace Darius Slay at some point. They're honest about JB having a poor season, as James Bradbury would be the first to tell you that. He's very accountable. So I think they do want a corner, but if one is not there, if Quinyon Mitchell's the guy you like and he's not there, well, you're going to go in a different direction.
Fans always like to see, the first round picks come in and play and start right away. And I just don't think that happens with a cornerback. I think a cornerback comes in and probably sits, depending again on what you do with Bradbury. But, Keely Ringo.
A lot of good ones recently. Sertan, Sauce Gardner, Jody's guy. A lot of good ones recently. Because I used to have that thought about corners. I used to go, oof, that's a difficult position to play right away.
But do you think they would come in and start right away? I mean, given how this roster looks right now, do you think if you took Quinyon Mitchell, he comes in and boom?
Well, I think if you get Quinyon Mitchell, I think they cut James Bradbury. And I think, he's starter day one. Now, there's going to be hiccups. I don't think he's going to be Sauce Gardner. But there, J.C. Horn now he had an injury, but he was playing very well as well. So a lot of the younger corner, I think the game has changed so much that there's so many good receivers and good corners because all they do is throw at the college level, spread. So you got good coverage guys, you got good receivers, and maybe they're a little bit more prepared to play than they have been in the past, I think.
And if you're right, Ed, and the Eagles are right, you said you think the Eagles like Keely Ringo a lot. It's competition. Throw them both out there. May the best man win. Whoever outperforms the other preseason and like in practice, that's your starter opening day. If James Bradbury is elsewhere, and I'm with John too, that if they draft a cornerback in the first round, it's only till June 1st, and then Bradbury is gone. They will release Bradbury. They'll try and trade him, but nobody's going to trade for him. So they'll end up having to release him. I got no problem with that. You think that's a little too much of a gamble to move off Bradbury to start either your first round draft pick and or Keely Ringo?
I kind of do. Yeah.
Really?
I think unless it's like John said, one of these top like Sertan or, the other guy you mentioned for the Jets, Sauce Gardner. I mean, if it's one of those guys, then maybe you feel better about it. But I haven't seen Quinyon Mitchell play. I've seen a few clips of him on tape, like he played at Toledo. I know he's got all the traits, but man, it's a big ask for a rookie to come in here and be a day one starter. And Bradbury's done it. He didn't do it very well last year, but maybe the Eagles believe that there's a reason for it, and they're going to take a big bath on that contract no matter when they cut him. Would they be willing to do it? I don't know. I mean, he's a veteran voice in that locker room, stand-up guy, very likable guy in the locker room, probably in the front office too. I'm not so sure I would cut him, June 1st if they go and take a Quinyon Mitchell or a Terrion Arnold or somebody like that in the draft. I don't like starting rookie cornerbacks in the league. I think it's a position you have to grow into. And maybe that's what they would do. They would keep him, and whoever they take in the first round, if it's one of those corners, then they kind of intersperse him, give him some snaps with Bradbury and Slay. And if he's playing well, then maybe he starts to win the job as the season goes along. But coming out of training camp, day one starter, that's a lot to ask for a rookie cornerback, I think.
I admit I am intrigued with James Bradbury and Vic Fangio's defense. I mean, he's a pure zone corner. I think Vic is smart enough to leave him at right corner, leave him alone. He's not going to move him into the slot like Goofy Sean Desai. He's not going to move him off to the other cornerback when Slay goes down. He's going to say, this is your job. He plays cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, all the Fangio bullshit zone coverages. That's what he does well. I'm intrigued. I think he's going to have a bounce back season if he gets to the season. But if the Eagles draft a corner, I don't think he's getting to the season. So I'm kind of torn on that.
I kind of agree. I think, but where I disagree would be if the Eagles draft a corner, I think he still could get to the season. I don't think they're just going to part ways with him. I'll tell you this: if he gets cut, he's not going to be free very long. I know when the Giants released him, he was kind of hanging out there for a little while until the Eagles were able to come to a deal with him. But I would suspect he'd be a pretty popular pickup. A veteran corner, just 2 years removed from being an all-pro player. I would think there would be a market for him. And I don't, Howie says it all the time. We're not in the mode of giving up on good players. And I think they still think James Bradbury is a good player.
All right, Eddie, I asked this of Damo yesterday because I was on The Athletic. They were going back and doing reevaluation of drafts last year, and the Eagles were one of 32 that they went back and reevaluated with a year in the books. We give Howie a lot of credit. The Howie season, certainly free agency is, and the draft is too, because he likes to shake and move up and down. How would you rate A through F, A plus through F, Howie's draft last year with the 2023 Eagles selections?
Yeah, well, I don't usually like to judge a draft class for
after 1 year, right?
After 1 year, I get it.
Ahead of time, this is up to change. We'll 5 years down the road look back and go, here's a definitive grade because everybody got their chance. We found out who couldn't play, whose game rose. So it's a snapshot just after 1 year look. You can do it, but you leave yourself the option to change it at a future date, which everyone should. What kind of grade would you give it 11 months after the pick, 1 year in?
Well, let's see. Let me refresh my memory. Jalen Carter was in that draft, right?
Nolan Smith, Sidney Brown,
Tyler Steen,
Keely Ringo,
Tanner McKee, Moro Ajomo.
Pickett to get Tanner back to his third position, which tells you a little something. But Moro Ajomo is the last one. What do you give the grade for that draft?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm probably going to give it an A still.
Are you kidding me?
I think Jalen Carter he was a Rookie of the Year candidate. I mean, maybe he should have won it. How many of those have the Eagles had? Zero. That to me makes it an A. Then you throw in a Nolan Smith, who I think can become, a good pass rusher. We'll see in year two. And again, this is why it's hard to do this, because I think Moro Ajomo has the ability to perhaps step up into a little bit of a more of a role than he had as a rookie. I like Tanner McKee as a cost-effective quarterback. Keely Ringo they like as a cornerback. He really struggled in the summer, and I thought that was kind of a bust.
Yeah,
of a
he
pick.
did.
But he
looked really good. I loved Keely Ringo.
Yeah, and he's really good on special teams. And then Sidney Brown, I think, is one of their safeties of the future in the third round. Tyler Steen could become, the super reserve player. So I like the picks, and there's really nothing that they have shown me so far.
But by the way, I'm with Ed on the Jalen Carter hate. Like, he was second in the defensive rookie of the year. I mean, I get it. He set such a high bar early. And he tailed off, but I mean, he's a great player. And when you're the second best rookie, and I think he should have won as well, to be honest, I think he was still the Rookie of the Year. Should have been, but Will Anderson run it. He's a very good player as well. Mm-hmm. Either way, number 2 is pretty good. I think he's going to be an all-pro player, John, if he stays, out of trouble off the field.
I was just
you
going to
always have
say,
to put that caveat on it. Nolan Smith, look, disappointment. Hopefully he gets stronger. Hopefully the procedure he had on the shoulder fixes that up, and who knows. Tyler Steen, like I said, I'm a little bit worried about because the Eagles seem a little bit cautious with him. I think Sidney Brown was great. He tore his ACL, though, in week 18. But they've made a lot of advancements. I talk about this all the time when it comes to ACLs. It used to be a year long. Now it's 9 months. And he should be back right at week 1, early in the season. He's very young. Those are the guys that can get over ACLs pretty quickly. Landon Dickerson had 2 ACLs in college. He just got an $84 million contract. It's not a death sentence. I think he's got tremendous potential. And Kaylee Ringo, I think, has tremendous potential. I'm not giving him an A, but it's a solid B. B plus at this standpoint, I would say.
All right, I'm going to go opposite to both of you guys, and feel free to stream out any of you guys who only want to hear Eagle positively, because
rare you get that from me.
Eddie's check is already in the mail. An A. Holy shit. This is a C minus draft for me.
Ooh,
you
C-.
go spin any way you want.
That's way too large.
The defensive tackle was phenomenal for 8 games. Went completely backwards. Compare his first half to his second half. Which is more memorable? The second half. That's the way we always look at things. You remember what happened most recently. So we're a half a season removed from their number 9 pick in the draft being a dominant player who looks like he could be an all-pro. Their second first-round pick couldn't get on the field, and all they keep doing is adding defensive ends. They talk them up a blue streak, but all they do is just keep adding defensive end. If they really thought Nolan Smith would play, then they wouldn't have made their highest off-season acquisition a pass rush specialist. Sidney Brown, I cut him some slack because they played him out of position. They asked him to go play slot corner. That's just ridiculous. That's more on the coaching staff than on Sidney Brown. But Sidney Brown got burnt a lot. He made a couple of plays. He's one of those playmaking type guys who will make plays. But overall, Sidney Brown helped the defense. The defense sucked, and Sidney was part of that. Tyler Steen, like John just said, closest Nick Sirianni's ever coming to say, yeah, he's not ready to play. By the way he described him, he was picked before Sidney Brown. He was Eagles' 3rd pick, and they're desperate to go out and continue to build the offensive line. Tanner McKee, they went and got a quarterback that they can pay for cheap the next 2 years. So when are they actually going to make a call on Tanner McKee if he can be the second-string quarterback?
Well,
3 years into his 4 years of being drafted.
I mean, what are we talking about? Tanner McKee's a 6th-round pick. I mean,
I think he was a 6th-round pick. You count them all, John. Yes, you decrease the importance as you go, but Nolan Smith was a 1st-round pick. How did he perform as a 1st-round pick?
Nolan Smith, to me, is fair. To have concerns about Nolan Smith.
I don't. I think it was a matter of opportunity, and he had the shoulder thing, and still trying to figure it out. But that defensive staff was kind of in turmoil too. So you got to give some of these players a little bit of a pass. And Will Anderson won the Rookie of the Year because he had a better second half, but his first half was terrible. He didn't have a great first half. Jalen Carter had the great first half, tailed off in the second half. But why? What are the reasons? Look at the coaching staff. That to me is a reason as well. So you can spin it any way you want. In fact, I have a glass here, Jody. Is that half full or half empty? I don't know. I'm thinking you're thinking it's half empty.
I'm a quarter empty. I'm a 3/4 empty on the Eagle draft. It just wasn't that good. Sorry, Howie. And I know. Hey. I'm here. I'm rooting. Jalen Carter plays 17 great games next year instead of 7. If he does, guess what? That bumps the grade up. Nolan Smith actually does get into games and gets 6 or 7 sacks. Boom. That's I'm open-minded. I'm not writing it off like, oh my God, how he screwed the Eagles for years. There's still a lot of question marks, but what I saw through 1 year of action, nothing wowed me except the first 7 games of Jalen Carter.
How about Sidney Brown? How about that 97-yard interception return he had against the Cardinals, I think, late in the season?
Yeah,
that looked like it should have won the game, but, of course, the Eagles blew it because their defense kind of let down again. But, yeah, Sidney Brown, electric player, makes tackles. And, again, you can't overlook the special teams end of this. And I could say the same thing. I'm giving him an A now, but if Jalen Carter comes out next year and has 2 sacks and plays 12 games, that grade's going to go down. Same with Nolan Smith. If he doesn't step up into a role, and what's that role going to be this year? You're right. They added Huff. Looks like they might bring Reddick back. His future is still undetermined, but where's he going to play? They love Zach Bond. Apparently, they look at him as possibly
Andrew Van Ginkel,
Andrew Van Ginkel type. Yeah. So what's Smith's role going to look like? I think you have to look at Fangio, and I think he's going to find a role for Nolan Smith, and I think Smith will have a good season. But you're right. If I looked at things that way, if that next year things don't break the way I think they will, then I'll lower my grade. Right now, I'm giving it an A.
You're half full. I'm half empty. That's a difference.
I'm in the middle.
Half full, buddy. Half full.
I'm
Yeah.
steady Eddie, right in the middle.
Yeah, you're still projecting. I'm cut and dry. I look at what he did the first.
Well, I don't
17
know how
games
you
out
can
in the
be
NFL.
upset about getting Jalen Carter. At worst case, second best defensive rookie in the NFL. I mean, and from a literal sense, I mean that's got to be an A for that particular pick. Everything else,
No,
yeah,
I can't give him an A
for that pick.
When you're an A plus, when you're an A plus for the first 7 games, and you're at best B minus for the second, that's not an A. That's a B.
Then
B plus.
you're a very hard grader, and you're not giving out A's because the only A you can give out is to Will Anderson. Then, and if you give out an A to Will Anderson, everybody else in your class is stupid because you're not giving out any A's because that's the only guy you can argue is better than Jalen Carter as a defensive rookie last year. So from that standpoint,
for me to go A plus, a guy need to be Aaron Donald as a rookie to go A plus. Neither one of those guys.
Well, I said A. I'm grading in his class.
First you said A plus, then you backed it off to A.
No, I said A.
You said A plus. You said A plus.
Let's go to the video.
Zander, go to the video.
Zander to
I
go to the
said
video.
A. I'm very confident. Like Jeffrey Lurie and tampering charges, I'm very confident in what I said. I said A, but it doesn't matter. I'm grading him against his class, and I think he's the best player. But if he's number 2, and I have to accept that from a literal standpoint, that's still an A. Now, everybody else, there's some concerns. I like the upside of Sidney Brown. I like the upside of Kaylee Ringo, specifically those 2 players. Nolan Smith might be the linchpin because he's got to be better. And hopefully he's one of those guys that has to get in an NFL weight room and he fixed his shoulder and maybe shows up with 10, 15 more pounds. And he's a completely different player and we're having a different discussion. Yeah. At Kratzy, make sure you follow Ed on Twitter. X does a tremendous job there. You mentioned Hassan Reddick. April 1st is looming. We talked about him earlier in the show. I'll end it there with you. I think it's looking more likely he'll be back than he'll be gone. You know, where are you right now? Back, traded, cut?
I don't think they're going to cut him. I'd be very surprised if they cut a 4-time double-digit sack maker like Hassan Reddick. So that leaves me the trade option or the bring back option. And listen, there's not a lot of space now on this defensive, on the edge here. The way they've built this team here in the offseason is they expected Reddick to be gone. And the reason he's not is the matter of compensation. You look at the way some of these trades have gone down. L'Jarius Sneed to the Titans. It was, kind of a song and a dance that they were able to just send off to Kansas City. So what are you going to get for Hassan Reddick? Howie wants a 2. He's not going to get that.
He wants a 2 for everybody.
Yeah, but you might have to settle for a 3, and I'm not sure a team's going to give that up. Teams already have made their moves in free agency. They've done what they've done. The draft is coming. Teams are getting ready for the draft. I could see maybe a draft night deal for Reddick getting done, but you're probably not going to get compensation until next year for him in the draft, which is fine. But I still think they're going to trade him. It's such a strange situation. I mean, he's still under contract. So if they don't find a trade partner, he's coming back. They're not going to cut him. But I think someone will bite on Hassan Reddick for a 3rd-round pick here in the next few weeks. I do. I just think that's the way the Eagles are kind of expecting it to go, and I think that's the way it will go.
All right, last thing we'll double down on Hassan. If they can't get a trade done, if Hassan and his agent dig their heels in and go in $25 million per, and Eagles just think he's not worth that, how ugly could it be when training camp opens up and Hassan's got the hammy and he's got the egg and he, as John McMullen suggested he do last year, holding in on the Philadelphia Eagles? How big a problem is that going to be in the locker room?
Yeah, it'll be a distraction, no question about it. But they'll move past it. They'll have to move past it. And you could see something like that happening, except I don't think Hassan's that big of a troublemaker. He loves playing for the Eagles, grew up rooting for the Eagles. I think that counts. I think that matters to him. I think he's a professional player. And I don't think he'll pull those kind of stunts. But if he does, it would be a distraction, clearly.
That's something that you guys will have to deal with in August. Always a pleasure, Ed Kratz. Enjoy your wrestling weekend. Thanks for hopping on with us today.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
Thanks,
good
Ed.
weekend.
Appreciate it.
Eddie Kratz, SI, here with us on Birds 365. All right, quickie timeout. Come back. We'll put a bow on the week for you here on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
All right, Mac and Mac. Just a minute or two left here that we get out of the way. Then we tell them we're doing a happy hour. I think we need to just clarify one thing for our streamers. We were off on the Hassan Reddick topic. The hold in, hold out. If we need to explain that again quickly. Neither John or I suggest any hold out because the CBA was readjusted a couple of years ago. You get seriously fined. They can't give the money back after the fact the way they used to be. Used to be fined and then the team would go, yeah, never mind. We're not taking the fine. And they give you your money back. Can't do that anymore. It's against the rules. So no one holds out anymore. Very few hold out to make a real statement. They hold in. They come. They show up. They go, my hammy's bothering me. They can't practice. There's a difference between those two things. So neither John or I suggesting that Hassan will hold out. We're both saying he could hold in and show up and just say, yeah, I'm not physically capable to practice. And
I think the Eagles are smart enough to understand something's got to be done if he stays. They're going to have to adjust the contract a little bit to get him ahead of Bryce Huff. So I think they're savvy enough to realize that anyway. Question is, do you find that 50-50 middle ground? And we'll see. Before we leave, our buddy Andrew DeCecco has been to a lot of pro days this week, but a lot of local pro days, Temple, Rutgers. He's down at Maryland today. He just said, and Jeff Stoutland is there. So there's a prospect by the name, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, Gottlieb Yedzi, who is that you play tackle in college, projects inside a guard. But we were talking about the top 30 visits earlier in the week. The Eagles are taking a look at a whole bunch of offensive linemen, So when you look at those visits and interest and the fact that Stoutland's showing up at Maryland, they're interested offensive linemen. The theme is bigger than the actual individual player.
Right. But with some of these guys, I'm thinking UDFA. Would be undrafted free agent.
Oh, he's going to get drafted. That guy. He's
from Maryland.
Probably day 3, but yeah, early day 3, okay. I would say.
And give the Eagles credit because they've had some guys they've drafted in day 3 and undrafted guys that have actually been able to hang around in the league for a while. All right, Johnny Mac, good week this week. You and I again on Monday.
Yeah, let's do it. Full draft mode. Let's get ready for the draft.
April will have arrived. So, yeah, plenty of draft conversation from now to the end of the month. We're less than 4 weeks away from
probably going to have to suffer through some WrestleMania references, too. Yeah.
Neither you nor I will suffer. Some of the listeners who aren't wrestling fans may suffer, yes. You'll get Mac and Mac right back here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, Monday, 8 a.m., which is basically 2 and 2 from now.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.